Thank you for joining me for the first proper reading of my story, My House Remembers. I lived alone in my home, loving it for both its goodness and its shortcomings until yesterday, when I walked into the living room and past the orange couch. It was the first piece of furniture I'd bought and one of the only vibrant pieces in the room. My plan of having the most colorful and bright furnishings and ornaments had been derailed somehow, and it was only recently that I began to tune into the energy of my home. The orange couch was the only piece that truly reflected me, unique and vibrant. Everything else, the pale blue and beige sofas gifted to me, felt like masks I wore to hide myself. Last night, as I walked through the living room, a glass of wine in hand, I settled my eyes on the pale blue couch and realized how much I didn't like the other couches. I'd somehow allowed external influences to deter the style I had initially planned in return for their approval, realizing eventually that their aesthetic wasn't mine. I swirled the wine in my glass, savoring the thought before not so accidentally spilling it onto the pale blue couch. I watched the red liquid seep into the cotton and felt a spark of clarity. I owned this house, and for the first time, I understood it should reflect me and not anyone else's idea of what it should be. I immediately left my bed, walked out of my room and down the majestic stairs into the heart of the house, my inner child trailing behind me. I admired the orange sofa in the living room once more, rolling up my sleeves, prepared to move it to the middle of the room while little me jumped up and down on it with glee. It was the first time I noticed that it was the only couch that gave us that luxury. Afterwards, my gaze drifted to the pale blue couch where the puddle of red wine had dried in the center. Flashes of last night's accident brought a small smile to my face. I surveyed the entire living room, taking in trinkets and ornaments that didn't belong there. It was a wide carpeted room with a fireplace and long windows that looked into the front compound. The walls surrounding the room were covered in bookshelves, so it felt cozy and tight with all the furniture close together. As I took a mental survey, I perceived the smell of spray starch strongly announcing its presence, followed by a light flowery scent, trying to stay inconspicuous and failing. It seemed my granduncles were around, but staying out of sight until called. God, that intro is so something. Let's begin, I said to myself as I pulled out the pale blue sofa and called on them to assist me in carrying the couches outside. As I tucked the sofa down toward the doorway, my first granduncle, Nuruddin, appeared out of thin air, his body stiff, arms crossed, and shaking his head in disapproval. I approve of the choice to burn this couch. It didn't fit the house for some reason, he declared, his voice cutting through the air like he'd been standing there all along. Before I could respond, my second granduncle, Lukman, toured into view beside me, spinning on one heel like he just stepped off a stage. I said something the night that woman brought it here, he said, gesturing dramatically at the offending couch. The day the couch arrived, some doors in the house closed and never opened again. Uncle Lukman was referring to the relative who bought this couch as a gift when I came of age. Oh, God. Yes, some doors were locked that evening. And as I was prone to not fixing what was broken, I had convinced myself I didn't need the qualities locked away in those rooms. Uncle Nuruddin nodded, his expression grim, his eyes as sharp as his starched shirt. And after that, I noticed a change in the way I expressed myself, I admitted, my hands tightening on the sofa. I even allowed a second relative to bring another couch. That was a huge mistake. Yes, that couch from your aunt who believed you were too wild. Uncle Nuruddin read the situation. And then he began to speak less. Pale blue would do that to you, his brother followed as he rubbed his Adam's apple. Yes, my throat closed up and I held myself back from speaking my mind. Yes, so you were more agreeable, and as a result, the aunt was more comfortable with you. She would have found it difficult to visit your house if she hadn't gifted you that couch. I said in deep thought. Does that mean she believed I was only easy to interact with and visit if I was less of a threat? This was all for her comfort, not mine. Exactly, Uncle Lukman affirmed as he held the back of the couch. I told you when she brought it in, but you wanted her to visit, and at what cost? If the cost outweighs the benefit, it's not a worthy investment. Not all ancestors are benevolent. They have the baggage they pass down the line to those who are receptive. This helps perpetuate their story while erasing yours. Their limits live through you. Ah! God, who is this? Oh my goodness. Agreed, brother. I haven't heard her speak her mind in a long while. How long has it been since you got this couch? Uncle Nuruddin asked, holding a side of the couch. 15 years, I said quietly. 15 years spent biting my tongue for the comfort of others. 15 years is a long time to bite your tongue. I realize that now, I say in subtle fury as I carry the couch in anger. It's okay to be angry. It's better to be even. Uncle Nuruddin said as we rushed outside the front door. Burn the couch, both uncles echoed as we dragged it out of the house. Burn the couch, little me joining in the chanting as teenage me watched from the front door. I wondered how long she'd been standing there. She was so quiet. With that, the uncles conjured gasoline and matchsticks out of thin air. Uncle Lukman danced joyfully as he poured the greasy liquid over the wooden object, his flowy shirt flapping in the wind, while Uncle Nuruddin stood with his hands in his pockets, smiling in triumph. I struck the match and watched as the flame danced in my hand, flipping it onto the couch without a second thought. The five of us watched as the couch quickly caught fire. Uncle Lukman clapped and danced as the flames roared, and myself and I joined him. Freedom danced through our bones as my throat uncoiled, releasing years of blockage. I was genuinely surprised when teenage me grabbed my hand in subdued excitement and began dancing with me. After a few moments, she wrapped her arms around me briefly, then released me to dance with little me. I didn't realize when a tear or two slipped down my face. Sing, Uncle Lukman commanded. He always had a lovely singing voice. I opened my mouth and sang on command, the melody flowing out of my throat like honey drizzled on a bed of French toast. Oof, yummy. Uncle Lukman hummed in response. I missed your singing, he said, touching his chest with tears in his eyes. Yes, sing, so I can dance a little, Uncle Nuruddin expressed as he moved his hips for 4 counts to everyone's surprise. Unbeknownst to me, at that very moment, the locked doors in my house creaked loudly, echoing years of stagnancy. As they unlocked but remained shut, we didn't hear them over the chants circling the fire. I'll stop here. Thank you.